1, 2, 3, 4.
Good morning, my brothers and sisters. On this, our 9th Spoilercast for the Good Morning Guys podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on this fine morning, afternoon, evening, or night as we discuss arguably one of the most controversial and revered follow-ups to a masterpiece in video games, The Last of Us Part 2. I am one of your hosts, the Brazilian mountaineer and transition ninja, Lucas Ham Swisher. Also with us, the judge, jury, and executioner of fake news and spoilers, Patrick Novosel.
What's up?
And our final member of the GMG Quadfecta, since our third member, Ronnie, does not own a PlayStation console still. He's got music in his heart, Doctor Who on his brain, and La Coretta in his old stomacho, Marc Boucher.
Take on me.
Chung, chung, chung.
Take me on. I won't go through the whole thing, but
I was having fun being your guitar.
is that what a guitar sounds like?
Acoustic guitar. Yep. Cha-chung chung. Yep. That's exactly what it sounds like. Cha-chung chung. All right, fellas. We have all finally beaten. Actually, let's reword that. I have finally beaten The Last of Us 2.
Yeah.
3 weeks ago, you guys beat The Last of Us 2. Congratulations.
Yes.
And so tonight, we are going to chat about it. This game currently has a 94 out of 100 on Metacritic.
Ooh.
I believe a 3.1 on the user reviews.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about
that's
that.
ridiculous.
We're gonna talk about that.
ridiculous.
We will talk about it. No spoilers yet, but yeah, it's ridiculous. But this baby has sold easily for, if not 5 million, unofficial million copies. It is a hit. And our goal tonight is to cover the highs and lows, share our experiences, share the impact, and of course the bigger picture, because along with so many other things in life, this game has so much to tell us, not just in the realm of video games, but in life, in faith, in love, in hate. Yeah. So before we jump into just full spoilers, the story, and just kind of the things that we experienced, I'd like to just get an overall view. Of course, we want to continue by saying full spoilers. If you have not played this game, pause, play it, come back, and listen. And it will be worth the wait. Spoiler alert! So we are going to spoil the bojangles out of this game, but I really just want to hit an overall...
The bojangles?
That's the second time I've heard you say that now. In our last episode, you used it, and now you're using it tonight.
Did I?
All I can think of is like a Bojangles Cajun filet biscuit now.
The buttery biscuits. It's Tim Hall. He's here with us in spirit. We still miss him and love him, for sure. Yeah, so what was your overall experience with this game, Patrick?
Overall experience.
Do you want to do a? Because I feel like a rating or something is not for later on. Because later on we're going to get into the thick of it. So I would like an overall experience and rating for it. We'll just jump right into the rating.
Right now. Okay. Goodness.
Yeah,
all right.
Just hit it out there, and then we'll get into the meat.
So the way I like to rate games is depending on if I want to replay it. Some games for me, I'll play it. I'm like, okay, I'm done with it. And I'll put it away. I don't ever play it again. This game was one of those games where I beat it, even though I wanted to go after the platinum, which I ended up getting. I wanted to play it again just because of the story. And I'm a very story-driven kind of guy when I'm playing games, and this one had it in droves. The way that this game made me feel emotionally, and I mean from the one side of the spectrum to another, making me feel good, making me feel sad, to angry, to scared. This game did it all, and it was hills and valleys. I mean, there was
for sure
scenes where I felt like it was just the lowest of the low, and then they would go to the next scene and bring it back up a little bit. And this game did it over and over again.
Right.
And I thought I was pretty close to being done with the game. And it ended up only being half the game.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, because to be honest, the second half of the game to me felt like it was DLC, in a sense where we got a whole nother story, and I was loving it. I was loving because the world from the Last of Us 1, I love being in that game. I played it multiple times, and for this game I played it twice. And going back to this game made me play it more than once, and I absolutely love this game. Overall, I would say I would score this one a 3.1. I'm gonna go along with the user scores on Metacritic.
Liar, fake news.
No, this game to me was a 10 out of 10. For sure.
Nice.
I absolutely loved almost everything about this game.
Yeah. Nice. Cool, man. All right, Mark, how about you?
So I'm pretty much the noob when it comes to The Last of Us. As you guys know, I kind of sat on the first one for a while. And so
you played it just in time.
Yeah.
So it worked out in the end.
Yeah.
You got like the full experience all at once.
Yep.
And so that was
Sometimes I
a
feel
cool
like-
way to do it.
Sometimes I'm jealous when that happens with people, where they don't get into the story until the sequel or the third one comes out, and then they can just binge them all.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So, that was all fresh in my mind, and that kind of feeling that I had from the first one was fresh into my mind when starting the second one. And so, obviously I'll unpack some of my thoughts, but this game really is not like linear in terms of its and cut and dry in terms of its storytelling. It really takes some twists and turns that get you to think, and it makes you sit in certain emotions that you don't feel comfortable with for a while, and makes you sit and actually think about those emotions and actually process them. Whereas normally video games, they certainly make you feel emotions, but I think this kind of hit differently. And especially since, it didn't necessarily play out the way I think it necessarily should have gone. But we'll get more into that. But anyway.
Okay. Right. I'm interested to hear that.
But all that being said, I would say this is a 9 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
It wasn't perfect, but I mean they did a great job. They did a lot of improving on a lot of the mechanics of the first game, and they definitely wove a good story in my opinion. As much as I wrestled with the story, overall they told it well, and it kept me interested. So, I would definitely say 9 out of 10.
Cool.
All right. So this game was a crawl for me. And
a literal crawl.
I set the settings to make me invisible when I crawled, and I crawled from Jackson to Santa Barbara. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't do that. But no, it was a crawl for me, but not because of the game. I will say that part of me throughout playing this game was kind of glad that I could only play it in 1 to 2 hour chunks, because it is so thick full of just information and highs and lows and character development, the gameplay, the stress. I cannot stress enough that I played this game on the easiest setting possible. I turned on half of the accessibility from the beginning. I was like, I am not fooling around with this game. I had told you guys in the Spoilercast that I played Left Behind, and I quickly realized that it had been too long since I played a scary game. And somehow I've turned into Chicken Little, and I just get stressed out. I have to like reapply deodorant every 10 minutes. I have to take a shower after each session. Like, it's crazy. Like, I just get so stressed out. And even with the settings on the easiest, I found myself just so nervous walking into areas, forgetting that all the NPCs and enemies were like legally blind because of all the settings that I had. Like, I could walk in front of them and they would just be like, is there somebody there? Like, they would just could not see me at all. And I still would get scared. I hated the stalkers. But I need to stop because I'm getting into like the meat of the game. But overall, like, even despite the stress, I loved and hated this story. More loved than hated. But it was not a hated like, I don't want to do this. It was more I can't believe you're making me do this, and I can't believe I'm enjoying it. Or not, that makes it sound kind of weird because I didn't like enjoy it like, oh, this is nice. It was like, this is a story. This is a real story, and it connected with human emotions. It connected in ways with people that I would not, in a normal like day-to-day aspect of my life, be able to step into the people's shoes that are going through these kind of things. And somehow Naughty Dog just like, they made me sympathize, empathize with people that on the surface I'm like, they need Jesus. And by the end of the story, they still needed Jesus. But
they all need Jesus.
They all need, there's a lot of people out there that need Jesus, but in this game, it's like 100% need Jesus. But I could not deny the fact that this game is a masterpiece. Like, I was thinking about it the other day, and I was like Last of Us 1 is like Logan or The Road, like in terms of films, you know? It's got that dark feel, and like with Logan, I watched it once, loved it, probably never going to watch it again. Like, it was such a sweet experience. Now, I didn't have the same thing with The Last of Us. I replayed it again. But then Last of Us 2, the only thing that I can compare it to in film was Kill Bill. I was like, oh, this is a lot like Kill Bill, like revenge and lots of blood squirting everywhere and, you know, all that jazz. But then I thought about it. I'm like, this is a Shakespeare tragedy. Like, this is a classic video game, but in the darkest way possible on an emotional level. It's so dark. And I even talked to my wife a little bit about it. I want to actually sit down with my wife. I had intentions of doing it earlier this week, but it just didn't work out. But I really think that if I like explain to her the story in general and just explain it from the position of, this is like Pixar meets Shakespeare tragedy. Like, it's just the best storytelling ever, and it's dark and it's hard to deal with, but it makes you go beyond the video game. Like, I love video games. I love escaping. But this game helps you like think about things in a different way on an emotional level and just so many spiritual level. Even with people needing Jesus in this game, so many things to think about on a spiritual level. But anyways, I say all that to say, I sit right in between Mark and Patrick, and I give it a 9.5 out of 10.
Okay.
All right.
And the half really comes down to the fact that there are decisions and things that we will talk about in the Spoilercast that I just can't. It just doesn't combine with my psyche and my heart and everything else. But at the same time, I understand. Like, I understand the circumstance and the context, and so, yeah. All right, so we covered the spread between 9, 9.5, and 10, so I would say this game is probably pretty good.
Yeah.
So with that being said,
I'd say it's decent.
let's jump into the highlights, the things that we loved. We're not going to go beat for beat everywhere, but I'd at least like to cover sections of the game so that we can touch about, because each section was so different and so special. Like, They had the most variety of everything in this game. Yeah. Like, in terms of gameplay, in terms of story, graphics, settings. Like, no Naughty Dog game, I don't think, has had this variety of everything. Playable characters, like playing as, spoilers of course, playing as Ellie and playing as Abby, totally different in feel and in guns and everything. And so this game is so varied, I feel like we've got to cover some sections. And so we're going to start with Jackson, the opening. The opening that gave us the recap. That gave us the recap of Last of Us 1 and Joel telling his brother Tommy what he had done. And then transitioning to meeting the community of Jackson and just being like, look, things kind of worked out. They're there. They're doing great. It's been 4 years, 5 years, and pretty much everything's all right. You feel a little bit of conflict in, Ellie's relationship with Joel, which you don't know why. So what did you guys think of the beginning, Mark? What did you think of, the opening and the opening section of Jackson and all the things that lead up to, of course, the big first crazy moment in the game?
Yeah, of course, this is all like the calm before the storm. They're thriving in this nice little community in Jackson. I love that they started in winter. The nice contrast of the colors, but they were like faded colors and things like that. Just gave it this sort of calm feeling. I love how the game sets up tutorials of how to play and weaves it in. They weave it into the story. I love when games do that. Like
Yes.
for example, the snowball fight,
I was just thinking the exact same thing. Yes, Snowball Fight's wondrous.
which was hilarious, because they're like, Dina's like, you want to blank him up? Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, I do. But
It reminded
yeah.
me of Dumb and Dumber, of course. Not Lloyd, the other one. Who
Harry?
Harry hitting the female lead in the face with the snowball and like destroying her. That's how I felt playing with those kids. I was like, headshot, you're going down. I got this baby on super easy, so I'm destroying all of these children.
Yeah, you can annihilate those kids with those
Yeah.
snowballs.
Yeah, you can.
But yeah, I mean, the opening it sets up that there's been some sense of stability and normality in the face of everything that's happened with the cordyceps virus and all that. That they've been able to kind of find some normality in the craziness, and find some unity. And so obviously that sort of sets things up for things to fall apart.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how much attention to detail, and of course every Naughty Dog game is like that. The attention to detail is great.
They ramp it up with each game so much. I feel like with each Naughty Dog game, I'm going from Nintendo to Super Nintendo to N64.
Yeah.
Like when you compare every Naughty Dog game, they always have a jump, regardless of the system, the console, or anything.
Yeah.
It's amazing how they always iterate.
But yeah, I mean it's a great setup. Everything is beautiful.
Yeah.
They did a great job with this opening.
I really wanted to live there.
Yeah.
Like the dogs, the little animals running around, the families, because they didn't have dogs in the first one. I don't remember.
Yeah, they
I don't
did.
remember
They
there
had
being.
one
Did
dog
they?
that you
Oh
could
yeah,
pet.
you could pet the dogs. Yep, remember?
In
Oh,
fact,
can you
it was
pet
the
the dogs?
same
Tommy
one.
had one.
It's the same
Yeah.
dog.
Oh, nice. Yeah. All right. Fair enough. But then the dogs they add to this, of course, we probably weren't big fans of, but we'll get to that eventually. So, Jackson, how about for you, Patrick? What'd you think of Jackson, the setup leading up to the Tiger Woods moment?
Yeah. So I thought it was cool that they finally had like a community. Felt like a normal life. You know, they were also going out on patrols, you know, here and there, for the infected and things like that. But one of the big things that stuck out to me was the first interaction between Joel and Ellie, where he brings a guitar to her, and you could sense some unease, some tension between them. And you know, going back to the Last of Us Spoilercast that we did last month, one of the predictions that we had was, you know, like Joel's gonna die, and Ellie's gonna find out about the lie that Joel had told her at the end of Last of Us 1. So that was always in the back of my mind. So when that tension was happening, I immediately knew that she knows.
Yeah.
And she is holding something against Joel at that point. We didn't know at this point because this is only the first few minutes of the game. So
Right.
that was just in the back of my mind. But then Joel sits down and starts singing a song to her, and which sets up the rest of the game.
Yep.
Because if you listen to the lyrics, it says, "If I ever were to lose you, I would surely lose myself."
Yep.
And you know, Ellie loses. Well, I guess we're getting ahead of ourselves, but you know, while I'm talking about it, Ellie loses Joel.
Spoilers.
In a horrific fashion.
Right.
And she goes off on a whole storyline for the rest of the game where she kind of loses herself.
Yeah.
And we'll get and I'll tie this back once we get towards the end of the game. But that like tender moment where Joel was kind of singing to her, and because he wanted to teach her the guitar, and
yep.
that's one of the things that they said, like in The Last of Us 1, is she's like, he's like, I'll teach you to play guitar one day. And in the first scene of them together in The Last of Us 2 is he brings her a guitar, and sings that tender song from Pearl Jam.
And that song, shout out to Pearl Jam, who probably saw an uptick in their sales for that song on
100%,
digital sales and everything else. And not shout out, but mad props to Naughty Dog for picking a song that like faked people out, because the song didn't officially come out until after Outbreak Day, but they had done their research to where the song had actually been released early on YouTube and would have been seen by those who were paying attention in that alternate timeline. So they chose a song that wasn't really well known, but it was still like well known enough. And of course, Pearl Jam, all of us kids in our 30s, we know definitely who they are.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
Yeah. So that was my first impression for the beginning of the game before I guess probably about 3 hours in, when we get I don't know, maybe it was a little bit less, is when we start taking control of Abby.
Yes.
And at this point, at this point, you know, like when I'm starting to play as Abby, you know, we're in the lodge and they are looking on the town of Jackson, and to me, I'm like, okay, they're looking for Joel, or they're looking for Ellie. At this point, I'm like, okay, are these the bad guys or not, or are they the Fireflies and they're still looking for a cure? This is in the back of my head, and then so we would take control of her. In my mind, I'm like, okay, how many characters are we going to control in this game? Is this just one of many?
Well,
or
what's
is
crazy?
This a storyline we're going to get?
Yeah, what's crazy about it is they take the beginning of The Last of Us 1 and they just jumble it together. Like, for example, they don't immediately start with like shock and awe in the first 15 minutes. It's very calm. It's just Joel telling a story, and then just setting things up slowly, little by little. Like, you feel a little bit of the awkwardness between Joel and Ellie. You get to meet some characters.
And that's slow moving storyline.
Oh, that's a slow
indicative
burn
for the rest of the game.
Yep, and it's hit little by little throughout the game.
Yep.
But they do the beginning totally different. You know, they have characters like Dina and Jesse. They introduce these characters that are going to be throughout the game, but you can already tell like the dynamics between them, which is totally different. Like, before it was just, you are Joel, you've suffered, you know, Sarah's died, and etc. This time, like, you're in a town, it's totally different. And then they throw a controllable character that's not Joel or Ellie at you within the first hour and a half. And that's totally different. Like, for one, because we played part of 1, we expected to control somebody else. There's no way, you know, maybe like 10% of us were like, I'm going to be Joel and Ellie the whole time. The rest of us were like, Naughty Dog, you just can't try to predict what they're going to do. And so they give control of Abby, and it's like, who's this? What is already? It's just the first hour, and I'm already controlling some random person. And I have to say,
I'm thinking in my head, like, who is this? Like, how does she connect to the story?
And I immediately died as her when I got hoarded by those stupid infected.
You're
like,
having
I'm
to
running,
run like that?
and I'm like, I have the accessibility thing on to where you click in the left stick and it'll show you the direction you need to go. And I still got overrun by the stupid infected and got killed. And I was like, well, I don't know who you are, so guess what? I don't really care. I just hate the animation of dying and getting your face ripped off and all that stuff. But so we have people on patrol. We have, a little bit of exploration. I think even from the beginning of the game, you have collectibles and safes and workbenches. I think the only workbench I missed was actually in Jackson. I don't know how I missed it, but I did. And I loved the little side things like that, the collectibles, and we'll kind of talk about the collectibles as they go throughout, but the collectibles and how they interacted with the world and interacted with the maps and the way you did things was really cool. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, for sure. I was so mad I missed the very first safe in one of the buildings.
I missed that too.
I was trying to look around to try to go back because I guess the actual code for the safe was that employee of the month picture of the dog.
Yeah. Yes.
I didn't even see that.
And
I never even looked for the safe numbers. I just spun it until it clicked.
Apparently you can, if you listen carefully, you can actually hear the click.
It works really well.
But I went back to actually find the code and ended up progressing. And so obviously you drop through the floor. And at that point, you can't go back.
Can't go back.
So unfortunately I missed that safe. But
yeah, this game, I slow played it. It took me about almost 30 hours to complete. So I was looking around at everything, taking in the sights, and I saw the employee of the month. And I'm like, why is there employee of the month? There's got to be something here. And I found the dog before I even got to the safe. So when I got to the safe, I'm like, oh, I already know what the answer is here.
Nice.
Because I was excited that there was a dog as employee of the month.
Yeah, I had to use the accessibility option to use sonar to pick up where items and all kinds of stuff was. It would just like beep, beep, beep throughout. You could do it with enemies too. And I used that almost the entire game, except the first hour or two in Jackson where I missed the workbench and I missed the safe. You'll have that.
Yeah.
So Jackson is nice, but things quickly heat up. I think within 2 or 3 hours, you are introduced to Abby, and then she is saved by Joel and Tommy. Yeah. And then they run into their group, and they're having a little awkward conversation.
And I want to put a pause. I want to put a pause right there before we get to what we're going to specifically talk about, because as you guys know. Naughty Dog unfortunately went through a horrible leak of a lot of pretty close to finished information, data, actual video like cutscenes and things like that of The Last of Us Part 2, to the point where they kind of had to acknowledge it, and that's where you knew it was true. And so with that information, and I found this out before I decided to go and play The Last of Us, the first one. And so I had looked up the spoilers, and I had this information in my mind. And so in this scene where, you're playing as Abby, and she's running from these runners and all this stuff, and all of a sudden you meet up with Joel and Tommy. Yep. Immediately my heart sunk.
Yep.
Because I knew what was going to happen, but I still felt the emotional weight of it. And so obviously we've kind of touched about it. This is coming up on Joel and his untimely death. And so that was one of the leaks. Was his death scene and how he died, and it was fully rendered, all that kind of stuff. So it's unfortunate that they experienced that type of a leak, but just even knowing that information, I still felt the emotional weight of what was coming.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I had heard things as well. I knew that he got beat up by some people. I didn't have the spoiler information as confirmed that he was like for sure going to die, but it was very much a possibility. And I already believed before the leaks came out that he was going to die. So I knew it was coming. I didn't expect it this early. But you could feel the awkwardness like immediately in Abby's eyes when she met Joel, when she heard his name, when they gathered together in the lodge, and they have that very quick conversation, and they say their names, and immediately things go south. And I felt sick. Like, it was just like, oh, I can't believe this is actually happening. Like, I don't know, Patrick, how did you feel when you encountered this whole section of the game?
I had a feeling that he was going to die, but the way the entire team of Abby's team, like, and Owen and all them, like, they all had like a difference of opinion, because they weren't all on the same page, but it felt like Abby was the leader for some reason. Abby was the leader at this point. And when she says she's gonna make him suffer, like, what did Joel do to her that makes her feel like this? And she was like, there's got to be some sort of connection. But she just takes that golf club and she whacks him, and and you take hold of Ellie, and I'm like, okay, Ellie's gonna, you're playing as Ellie, you get back into the lodge, and that whole scene unravels, and Ellie's just laying there watching Joel die. Yeah. And it was heart-wrenching, because we've developed a internal relationship with this character, with Joel's character, through the entire first game. He goes from just losing his daughter to gaining another daughter, and then they both are laying there on the ground, and he's just, the last thing he sees is her. Yeah. And Ellie's just, the last thing he sees of him is just his gruesome death. Yeah. And it was just rough, so rough.
I think this is the reason why it's that 3.4 score from user score on Metacritic. And let me finish this. And I totally, probably, I agree with what you're about to say, but basically this was the issue. Was, number one, the leak happened, and so lots of people found out ahead of time that Joel was going to die, and Joel was going to die in this way. And I think this game suffered a little bit from what I'm calling Last Jedi syndrome, where what I mean by that is people had this fan fiction idea of what was supposed to happen in the second game. And then when it completely flipped things, and to where Joel died early in the game, he didn't get this like huge, glorious hero's death. He got clubbed to death with a golf club. I think people had trouble swallowing that. And so initially that was how I felt. I'll be honest. But for the story that they wanted to tell here and how things progressed from that point, it didn't make sense to have it be anybody else. It wouldn't have had the same weight. Right. So go ahead.
I think Joel dying had to happen. We couldn't have another Joel and Ellie game. We couldn't. No. It would have been the same game. We've already had Last of Us 1. They needed a new story to tell. Ellie had grown up, and she's a perfect protagonist for the game. So, that scene set up the rest of the game. And if that's the story they're going to tell, then the rest of the game doesn't make any sense. But like going back to Joel had to die. There had to be a reason why we weren't going to be controlling Joel for the rest of the game, because that's just the story that they told with Abby and Ellie, and having that that contest between those two people was very important, and it all boils down to Joel's death, and it had to. It just had to.
Go ahead, Lucas.
I was just going to say, for me, Joel's death was, I don't want to say it was just another story beat, but it was a part of the story to, launch it to form my early opinion of Abby, of course, to not like her, to not trust her, to feel kind of the way Ellie felt towards her. Obviously not the same degree because I know it's not real life. We got George R. Railroad Martined by Naughty Dog, like where he took a character and he's like, hey, you like this guy? Good.
Gone.
And just see ya. But I didn't have that like true bond with Joel. I would say I had more of a bond with Ellie in terms of her as a character. And with Joel, I had trouble, I'm a dad too, and so I connected with that. But, from talking about what we talked about in Last of Us Spoilercast, there were some aspects of his character and what he did that I was like, you know what? I got you, but I don't. So for me, it didn't hit me that hard about Joel personally, but the whole situation in general, it was gruesome and it was tough to watch. And it definitely geared you up to go on the hunt and be like, okay, we're going to get Abby. I'm with you.
You're going down.
I'm with you. Let's do this. And so, we get to, the after and kind of they give you thankfully a little time to mourn. You go to the gravestone. You have a little Ellie has a conversation with Tommy. Tommy's like, hey, just wait. Let me clear up some things with Maria and blah, blah, blah. And then a day later you find out Tommy's already gone. And you're like, what the heck?
Yeah,
You're trying to steal my thunder here, Tommy? Trying to steal Ellie's thunder? Let's get over that. So you head off for Seattle with our girl Dina. And let me tell you, I never knew Seattle was so freaking beautiful. What a lush, beautiful city. Of course, it's overgrown. That's not how it is in real life. It's in
crappy shape.
It looks like post-apocalyptic to me.
Yeah, but it looks so beautiful, like with the
way they did it. Yeah,
the way they just mixed the urban and the natural and everything else. It was so beautiful. Mm-hmm. So we get to day one, Seattle. We transition to we're on the adventure. We're going after Abby. What did you guys think of the open city in front of you?
Oh, I thought I was like, is this the way the entire game's going to be? Like,
yeah, I was really scared about that. I was like, oh no, I'm never going to finish this game.
I would say I was probably in that big open first section for like 4 hours.
Now, did you explore the whole city the very first time you did it? Because I did not. I missed a building or two. I explored it. I thought I explored everything, but when you look at the collectibles, I didn't. Nope, didn't get the trophy.
But yeah, I thought it was. I wanted to go into every building. I wanted to go into those like broken down buildings that are on the top of the hill that just look like they used to be a building. I was going in like drawers, pulling up them open. I was going through everything. And yeah, I was wanting. I wanted every other place to be as big as that, but I also didn't because I was like, this is Seattle day one. And I've been doing this for 4 hours. Like, how many other days are there?
Now, this was like Uncharted 4, right? Where this was really the only open world, quote unquote, section. Just like Uncharted 4, when you get that Jeep and you're in that open world section of Madagascar.
Yeah. The Seattle day one.
It
was the biggest open world. There was some other open areas, but it was like way more confined in like a street block, more of a sense, rather than a downtown. So,
yeah. I mean, I enjoyed these areas. I love games that have puzzles in them.
Yeah.
And I'm a big Legend of Zelda fan, and those games are filled with puzzles. And Last of Us 2, and the first one too. They have their share of little puzzles that you've got to figure out, and you've got a gate that you've got to open, and you've got to use a generator, and now you can throw ropes and cords and things like that to be able to plug in the generator and all that kind of stuff. So I love the little gameplay elements like that that make you think a little bit. I probably only skimmed the surface in terms of exploring the area. I did explore a little bit, but I'm sure there was way more that I missed.
I only went where she X'd on the map, and once I ran out of X's, I was like, I as much as I like exploring it, I need to move on. It had already been, like Patrick said, like 2-3 hours. I was like, okay, I've been spending 2 days here. I'm still in Seattle day one, but for me it's Seattle day 3, so I need to get things moving.
Yeah. I tell you what, though, what they did a good job with in this game as compared to the first game is every time you were like going down into a basement, some sort of a dark area, like obviously you knew there was going to be infected.
Right. Yeah.
But even then, like I was much more scared in this game than I was with Last of Us 1.
Half the jump scenes that I thought were coming never came. Like I thought something bad was going to happen and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's mean.
Yeah. So, I mean, there were plenty of situations. Like, there is this coffee shop that you go into, and you go in, like, a back bathroom area, and all of a sudden this runner or whatever just
jumps
comes flying out of the stall.
Didn't even wash her hands. Gosh.
Don't
nasty.
Consider it.
Don't even remind me.
We're in an outbreak.
I know.
Come on.
Now,
wash your
we
hands,
can't...
20 seconds. Happy birthday.
We can't go past the Seattle Open section without talking about the practice scene and getting to play the guitar for the first time.
Yes.
Oh.
That was magical.
That came out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere.
I don't know if it's actually part of the story, but I just came across it when I was exploring.
You miss it. You can miss it. I've heard people have missed it. I did not miss it. I got to see it. I know all three of us did. So.
Oh, it was just like, I knew immediately. I was like, I think I played for maybe a half hour, and I didn't know if something was going to happen. Like it would be like force me into a cutscene, but because I was like, I don't want to get out of this.
Right,
I don't want to go back and then not be able to play again. You know, I didn't want to lose that opportunity, so that's why I stayed there for a half hour. And then seeing all the people that made those their own songs,
it's crazy
on the internet. It's just. It was amazing. And Mark, you said that all the strumming and all the chords were like accurate.
Yeah, like
right?
all the different keys, all the chords, everything was accurate. Even down to Ellie's finger placements on the fretboard were accurate.
Yeah.
And so they did a great job. And somebody over at Naughty Dog is an 80s music fan, and I love you. Whether it's
that was
Neil
awesome.
Druckmann
Take On Me.
or whoever. Aha's Take On Me. I think they did, at one point she sang, or maybe it was only in the trailers, that she did New Order's True Faith. I used to think that the day would never come, that my life would depend on the morning sun.
Yeah.
That song. I think that might be just in the trailers. I can't remember. But there were a couple of songs that she did. I was like, somebody over there is an 80s fan, and God bless you.
That was cool.
No doubt.
Really cool.
The details in general again, Naughty Dog just notches it up. The details with the guitar, the details with, just side note, the details in the workbenches when you would upgrade your guns and stuff, and the way that it wasn't just like click to upgrade and then it's upgraded and you move on. Like they would actually do the thing that someone would do to upgrade a gun in the way in which you chose. And that was crazy. It felt so real.
Yeah, just like the animations and the sound, the audio
so
design
satisfying
of all that.
just to see him do it.
It felt really good to upgrade a gun. It wasn't just a click, 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 and then you have an upgraded gun.
Exactly.
Like she would go through, clean the gun, take apart stuff, and put it back on. There were times when she was upgrading her gun, and part of her arms were like getting in the way, and I'm like kind of leaning ahead, like I can't see it. No, move over, go. So it was really good. The workbenches were really well done.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I do have to just shout out to whoever decided at one of the workbenches that you were going to get attacked by some people. I did not appreciate that. I think that was in day 2, but it was in Seattle in general, and that scared the bejangles out of me. Like, my heart stopped a moment while I was upgrading. Not cool.
Yeah, because you think you're safe at the workbench. It's like, yeah, you did. Yeah, because you think you're safe at the workbench. Like, shouldn't people be leaving you alone? All of a sudden, nope, you're not safe here.
Not happening.
Yeah. So, like in the beginning of the game to when they get to Seattle, Ellie is hanging out with this Dina girl.
Yeah.
And they're close, and you see their relationship continue to blossom.
Right. And I mean, you got a preview of it back in Jackson when they found the marijuana and they,
yes,
stuff happened.
Yeah. That was Jackson? That wasn't Seattle?
That was Jackson when they were on the because Jesse came in
patrol.
interrupted. It was during their patrol time.
All right, yeah. But you could, I mean, they have that relationship. It's like not an official relationship. They're still in the early stages.
Yeah.
And like they joked. Ellie joked that she was immune. Well, not really joke. She was serious, but Dina thought she was just joking. She's like, "No, I'm serious." And then they get down to that like subway area.
Yeah.
And
where she has to take her
face
mask off.
just takes off.
Swap
and
it.
Dina finds out that, seriously, she was serious about that and she was immune. And that was just like the first person that has ever known outside Joel and Tommy that she's immune to this.
Yeah.
She's the person the Fireflies have been looking for years.
You would have thought in that moment she would have done like a quid pro quo and be like, well, since you're going to tell me you're immune, I'm going to tell you I'm pregnant. Surprise.
I know, right back to back. Like, oh my
Come
gosh.
on. No, instead she waits even longer to tell until things are at their worst.
Yeah, when Dina is throwing up, okay, I don't know about you guys, but I immediately knew she was pregnant.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
As Lucas,
like,
as
making you
dads,
sick?
we've seen this before. We know what it is.
Been there.
Yeah, so we know what it is. And I had an inkling that was so. Like, the reveal that she was pregnant was not surprising to me because I already saw the signs.
Right.
But it was just like back to back. Like, hey, here's my secret. Here's mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, were you going to say something, Mark?
Oh, no. That's it.
You did the lean in, yep. So I was just wanted to be ready.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. You can lean in and yep anytime.
Yep.
All right. So during Seattle, just, we got day 1, 2, 3. Lots of stuff happens. We get lots of flashbacks peppered throughout. And we can touch on them while we're, in conversation. But let's just go ahead and talk about the first flashback, I think, which is the museum and cassette tape. Right? Or is that the second one?
I think that's like the second or third one.
That's a little bit.
Is
it? That's a little bit going farther. But we could talk about we can go all over the place. We can talk all over the place.
I mean,
we can go back and forth. I mean, that's what Last of Us 2
Yeah,
did to
that's
us.
what they did. They did it to us.
Why can't we do it too?
Yeah, we can do it to them. Hey, let's talk about Santa Barbara day 1. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but you get these flashbacks, and I mean, I guess I mentioned the cassette tape one because that's one of my favorite ones. You guys keyed me in on it. You were like cassette tape or cassette or whatever. Like when you guys were like way ahead of me, and you're like, here's some vague hints of what you're going to run into.
Yeah, like those moments are the moments that make the game.
Yeah.
Because, it is such a deep, emotional, hard game. And they give you moments like this to bring you back. So it's not such a dark game. When they get to the museum, she sees that dinosaur and sees all the dinosaurs and goes into the space section.
Well, wait, you got to mention putting on hats on all the dinosaurs.
Oh,
which
yeah,
was pretty
exactly.
fun.
Yeah,
and then finally put it on the biggest
that's a trophy
dinosaur.
for that.
That's right. You put it on Joel, the biggest dinosaur of them all.
I love when she comes into that big room with the T-Rex, and she makes that voice like is a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Is a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it is a dinosaur.
That had to be so cool to experience again for the first time.
Like when she gets into that spaceship and puts on the helmet, and there was just like that moment of a father-daughter moment that they're going to remember for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
He's telling her like to close her eyes and think about this and then put this, press play. It was just one of those moments where as a parent, you want to create those types of moments.
Yeah, definitely.
And,
for sure. And you want to be a part of them. Yep.
Yeah. Like it was like for us, we take it for granted when we take our kids to places and provide and give them moments. But there are like big moments, and this one was a big one where he gave her something that she thought she would never be able to experience.
Right.
So it was really, really cool.
It's really cool. I mean, in our modern age, I feel like there even still, as much as Patrick and I are like just talking about being a parent and having these moments, there are moments we miss because of cell phones, because of work, because of life. And something I appreciate about kind of the circumstances they're in, to kind of look on the brighter side, because things are just awful and terrible a lot of the times, but they don't have that distraction. And so Joel gets to really treat her on her birthday. And that was so special and also very necessary, because this game is so violent. Like, taking out enemies is automatically, like, there's no fast way to do it, especially at the beginning. And they, like, get you right in the face, like, right up close and personal. And I appreciate now playing Ghost of Tsushima, where it's just like, quick, let's go. Yep, take you out. Because, man, after so many stealth kills...
Because you don't think about it.
No, after so many stealth kills in Last of Us, that was hard. It was real hard. They made you feel it, for sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, when you kill someone, especially in a group, one of the things, like one of the small little touches that Naughty Dog did was make him feel more humanized. Like, they gave almost every single NPC a name.
Yep.
So when you would kill someone, they would say their name, like Doug or Amy or whatever it is. Like, where are you? And they're like, oh my God, it's Keith or whatever. All those names. Like, you're like, oh my gosh, I just killed like a person. Right. I just didn't kill like an NPC. It was an actual person who had a life.
Yeah, I gotta admit, like, it was kind of a struggle once you start getting into these areas with Ellie and they introduce the dogs.
Even that too, yeah.
All the dogs had a name. It wasn't just like, hey dog, it was, hey Alice.
Yeah.
And you kill the owner, and the dog is just like whimpering, like doesn't know what to do, because you just killed their owner, and it was just so like, right in the gut.
Yeah, this was difficult. You kill way too many dogs in this game, or
oh my gosh,
way too many dogs.
Yeah, and I did it because I did not want them to come after me. I had to just separate myself from the moment and be like, this is a digital dog. It's not real. Yeah. I'm not actually killing it. I'm just ending its digital avatar at the end. And then I just do it. I refused to let myself get drawn in 100%. But I did feel it most of the time when I did it. It was crazy.
For sure.
Craziness.
Yeah.
So Seattle, the first day you explore that big open world, you get caught by some of the people that were in the killing of Joel area, and you, of course, take them out as Ellie and Dina. You escape a school, and you start going through neighborhoods and kind of tracking down where Abby is, and you keep like kind of jumping off these little platforms or these hopping person to person, in which I think something that I'm just going to say now, because it plays throughout the rest of the game. I really feel like Ellie, it gets a little bad of a rap on how much of a killing spree she goes into. I feel like Ellie goes into this whole spree wanting to only confront Abby and have her revenge on Abby. I don't feel like at any point does Ellie kill someone because she wants blood or she wants to outright just kill them. It's usually like, tell me where Abby is, and then they don't tell her, and then they try to attack her and she defends herself or whatever.
Yeah, and Tommy has killed the first couple of the group already. So
and you see
like
that going
Ellie
through Seattle.
It's not like Ellie's killed every person.
No,
she mainly kills to survive and to look for Abby.
Right, exactly. So, but as we keep going through, we eventually find a theater, which becomes the home base, and of course we discover Dina's pregnant, and that ends day one, hanging out in the theater. Now, I will say something that you run into the theater almost, I thought was good storytelling. When you guys were getting the collectibles in the theater, you find out you're going to run into someone who's up at the top in your search for trying to turn the power on. And I thought I was going to have to fight this person that I was reading all her letters. And then you go up there and she's like cooked like bacon.
Oh, yeah. Not an electrician.
Oh, never mind. This was easy. And that happened. I feel like that happened so many times.
Yeah, I think Ellie makes a joke. She's like, you must not have been an electrician.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Pretty much.
I think that was, yeah. It's funny.
Yep. And so then we get to day 2, and we go out on our own because Dina's pregnant. We want to leave her there. and we go out and about. I will say, I think it's during day 2 that I hit one of my favorite chain of collectibles that I just wanted to mention, and that's Boris. I think if you remember reading some of the letters about Boris and how he tried to rise up against the WLF, but then his people sold him out, and he was the bearer of the bow, the one that had the bow where you finally get it, that nice silent weapon. I really enjoyed that build-up. I knew that I was going to have to fight Boris in some form, and he wound up being a clicker, and then you get his bow from him. But I thought that was really cool. Did you guys have anything from day 2 that you wanted to, if you remembered what happened during day 2 that you wanted to mention?
When did the flashback happen where Ellie is sniping with Tommy?
I think that's day 2, where they go for the guitar strings.
I can't remember, but it's the flashback where Ellie finds out from Joel. Joel tells her the truth.
Now, does he tell her the truth before or after she goes to the hospital? I thought she heard rumors and went to the hospital.
I can't remember if it's day 2 or day 3, but it's I can't remember.
Telling the truth, or him telling the truth, is one of the last flashbacks that we get.
Okay, so might have been day 3, but
you might be merging that one together. But
day 2, when they go to look for the strings, that's when Ellie starts asking more questions.
Yeah, she has doubts.
Okay, all right.
And then from there, she ends up going to the hospital.
Yeah, in which we can just talk about that reveal that she knew. We knew like Patrick, you said you kind of had a feeling that she knew. And I mean, even from the end of Last of Us 1, we had a feeling that she knew something wasn't right. But to experience her going to the hospital and discovering that she was the cure, that Joel had ruined everything, quote unquote, or taken away her chance for her life to have meaning, to be in that conversation and watch that was really painful. Really painful to watch.
It was. She asked him straight up, and he told her, and she's just couldn't even look at him.
Yeah.
She's like, I pretty much, I never want to talk to you again. Stay away from me. It was a rough moment.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it was Joel taking away her choice. I mean, the Fireflies took away her choice too, but you discover in this game that she wanted to die. She knew what she was doing. Mm-hmm. She was expecting to die probably, and she wanted to do it. And to me, that makes Joel's choice at the end of Last of Us 1 worse, because she wanted to do it. But
and I think that was a good conversation. It was the conversation that we needed to have to bring meaning or closure, to the end of Last of Us 1, because that was one of the outstanding questions that people have. The biggest one was whether she knew it or not at the end of the game, and having that conversation is okay, she didn't know, but now she does,
right?
And she can't forgive him for it.
Yeah.
So when that happens, I'm like, then why, if she really does not like Joel at this point, why is she going after Abby? At what point in their relationship is making her go off on this revenge? They had a relationship, but to her, I mean, he was pretty much dead at this point. To her,
I think, why
would she want to go off into Seattle and just go after Abby for a revenge purpose? At this point, I'm like, I don't understand why.
Yeah,
right. And I think the key to that is obviously in I think that's the last flashback that we see.
The very last flashback.
The very last
finally.
flashback.
But this is the first half of the game.
Yeah.
Right.
And at this point, they wait another 15 hours for my playthrough to find out that she is giving him another chance.
Yeah.
She's like, pretty much, I love you too much to have this between us.
But she doesn't say that. She just says, I'll think about forgiving you.
Well, yeah, she's like, no, she says, I don't forgive you, but I'd like to try.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And at that, it's like, okay. So that is the reason, like, she's trying to forget. But at that point, like, does that really give her enough to go off of on this revenge tale?
But I mean,
does it really?
Didn't Abby steal from her the opportunity to really have closure? Because even though she said what she said at the last flashback, she didn't really get to cross that threshold into forgiving Joel and saying it out loud. So
I guess that
maybe
makes
she
sense.
felt like that got stolen, that chance. And still, even then, you know as well as I that with certain people in your life, they can do whatever they want. But if someone else crosses them, or that just kind of like that family thing, they were family. So you can talk bad about them, you can fight with them, but if somebody else hurts them, talks bad about them, whoa, back off.
That's not their.
You don't have that right.
Yep, exactly.
So
okay.
I think it's a little bit
that
of
makes that
little
totally
bit of those
makes
things.
sense. Yeah,
for sure. So during this time, we run back into Jesse. He shows up, scares the crap out of us because he puts his hand around Ellie's mouth and pulls her away before she can jump into like the mix of fighting all these people. And then I tell you what, that truck scene with Ellie and Jesse and fighting off the infected and fighting the WLF and all that was pretty fun. That reminded me of Uncharted a little bit.
It did, for sure. Same here.
And I definitely was glad I used the slow down speed for aiming because that was the only way I survived. It was just like every time I'd aim, it'd be like it was, this is the only way I survived. But then after that, you're kind of with Jesse for a little bit. And then I believe it's from here that we're going to the hospital. Well, eventually we split off from Jesse because they hear about a sniper. They hear about Tommy. And Jesse wants to go help Tommy. And Ellie's like, no, I have to go talk to this Nora chick. Or at some point she catches wind. Each day has like a place. Like I think the final place in day 1 is the TV station. And then the final place in day 2 is the hospital. And so you go to the hospital to track down Nora. That's where we have our whole section and set piece around that they showed, I think was the last playable trailer or whatever they showed, where you fight the person that has the Vita and all that jazz. And so you don't fight. You get into the hospital, you find Nora, and she's the first person, I think, that is confronting you about what Joel did. Like saying it out loud, you start to discover why they went after Joel. Like you have maybe had suspicions, thought about it. I definitely had a feeling that it had to do with the hospital. But at this point, Nora confirms in your encounter with her in the basement of the hospital as she's dying and getting infected that Joel took away the chance to have a cure, and that's why they killed him. And what did you guys think of that kind of encounter between Nora and the semi-torture, anger issues that Ellie was dealing with?
Oh, bro. So when this was one of my other scenes in this game where it was rough for me because the camera is on Ellie and there's a square button. So telling you to press a square button. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to kill her. She's gonna die eventually. Why? If with Ellie in this whole revenge tale, I feel like she was gonna let her become an infected rather than just kill her straight up.
Right.
So I just let that sit there for a second, and then it wouldn't let me just sit there. So I hit the square, and it was just like rough. Like this scene right here is some scenes that we've never gotten in any video game before. Like this brutal, torture and brutal deaths like this. So this was like one of the powerful scenes, other than Joel dying. This was just like almost pretty much the same. You don't feel like the same like breadth of it because of the relationship we've had with Joel. But because of it's Nora, she's a little bit a little bit about her, but you're not too worried about Ellie smashing her face in. But it's still like, man, this was graphic. This was a graphic scene, and it weighed on me. I'm like, I don't want to do this. Yeah, that's the way I felt about this.
I would agree. This was probably the first part where I felt the resistance from myself to be like, okay, look, I understand you really want to get to Abby. And honestly, the situation between Nora and Ellie kind of escalated to the point where, well, the only reason Ellie wouldn't die is because she's immune. And then Nora's in there. It's like, well, there's nothing really that you can do for Nora now. Just get the information. But still, it was hard. It was still tough because it got, it just, I don't know. Like you said, the torture and everything going on, it got a little, I could feel it. And I was like, I'm not lining up exactly with what Ellie's doing for sure. So we go to day 3, and we found out about the aquarium, that's our next destination, that supposedly that's where Abby is. And I think day 3 is big, not just because it's the day where you eventually will run into and finally encounter Abby, but you meet the Seraphites in the square in day 3. And let me tell you, I do not like the Seraphites, or Scars as they're called. That whistle thing they got going, creepy.
Yeah.
And I noticed that when you listen, you can't always see them because they walk around and squat around silently sometimes.
I don't know how much if you've ever watched The Walking Dead.
No, I haven't.
Okay. So, I don't know if you've ever heard of the character Negan from that show.
Yes.
Okay.
Barbed wire baseball bat.
Yep.
Yep.
And he's a part of this gang called the Saviors, and they, one of the things that they do is they whistle. It's more of an intimidation thing, whereas with the Seraphites it's more of a whistle, like a communication kind of thing.
Right.
But when they started whistling like that, it made me immediately think of The Walking Dead, and the group's called the Saviors. Because they had that same sort of whistling thing. But yeah, theirs was more of like they were able to communicate, like depending on the tone and speed of
Right.
what they were whistling, that they could communicate.
Yeah, and that's a crazy detail, really cool detail, especially knowing, to me it felt like the Elvish language in Lord of the Rings, where it's like,
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're saying, and then to find out that it's real, like it's a real language. People use that whistling thing. They've used it in real life, and like you said, in Walking Dead, they use it there, and that was really cool. But it added a layer of like intimidation to where I'm like, okay, with the WLF, they say, hey, I'm looking over here, and it's like, I understand not to go over there. But when the Seraphites are just like, I'm like, well, what are they doing? Are they like saying, I'm gonna go to the grocery store and get some can of beans? Or they're like, she's over there, I'm going to shoot her in the face with a bow. But yeah, so that was a crazy intro. And then just going through all the rapids, going through, using the boat a lot in day 3 to make your way to the aquarium. We get to the aquarium, and the next difficult, painful part of this game was encountering, and that's the thing is this encounter was painful when you originally did it, even more painful when you get context in the second part of the game. But
Right.
you encounter 3 important characters that you don't realize are important until after the fact. And this, again, storytelling at its finest and worst. Only at its worst, because it hurt me so bad. You get attacked by a dog. You've already gotten attacked by so many dogs when you get to this aquarium. By the time you get to this aquarium, and you just kill, okay, I kill this dog. But it's different. It's an animation. And like you have to press square or something to like knife the dog, and oh, it's awful.
And then yeah, like after the dog dies, I sat there like in awe, like, really, did I just have to do that?
Yeah.
And so I sat there, I put the controller down because I'm like, it's not, that type of moment is something that's not in my mind.
Right.
So like when I see that I just did that, like video games, when I have a controller in my hand, I kind of put myself in the my character's shoes. So whatever they're doing, I kind of feel. That's the way I'm able to play games. But when this happened, I sat there, I put the controller down, and I just watched the blood from the dog just continue to spill out. Like, it wasn't just like an old video game where like the blood circles out and it stops. Like, this continued to spider down the tile, and I'm like,
jeez.
oh my gosh, I wish I wouldn't have put the controller down because this just made it even worse.
Right.
It's made it so much worse. But yeah, that's like the first awful part that's going to happen in the aquarium.
Yeah.
Because the next thing you do is you go through those doors and there's Owen and
Mel.
What's the other? Mel. And yeah, just like they don't she's like, where's Abby? They don't even get anything out. And she kills them both.
Well, they have a little conversation. She doesn't just kill him right away. She does the map thing that Joel did with the last game, and she's like, "I'm not going to hurt you. I just need to know where Abby is." But of course, again, like every character before, every character for reasons we don't understand, but we do because it's like they're loyal, just like Ellie was loyal to Joel. And so they try to find their moment to catch Ellie by surprise, and as happens with everyone before and everyone after, it doesn't quite work out. And then all of a sudden, she kills Owen, she kills Mel and her unborn child, and you discover after the death that she was pregnant. And this is awful.
It was so bad. Like seriously, that was so bad.
Mark, how did this area of the game hit you?
It was rough. It was rough for sure. It was hard for me to think that they went there. There's deaths all over this game, of course. Very brutal, but it's always extra rough when you realize that there's a character that's pregnant. And
like when like one of the things that we're always taught. Like it's you got to save the women and children. That's what's going to keep our society going. It's the things that we need, and when Mel dies, one, she's a woman and she's also having a child. So it's like, and to me, like that's two people. She just killed two people.
Yeah.
And as that happened, I'm like, this is so rough.
Yeah.
Like it's another one of those put down the controller moments. Like, I can't believe that just happened. And then the cutscene plays out where Tommy comes in and pulls her up off the ground.
Yeah.
Because she is just like, I can't believe that just happened.
But in the very least, I'm glad at least she reacted in a human way. She was throwing up.
Yes.
You could tell it once she found out that Mel was pregnant, and it really hurt her like it hurt us. I give Naughty Dog credit for not just making it her blind revenge. Of course, I really feel like at this point we understand two things: that one, Ellie is very much human, but two, Ellie is giving her all to find Joel's killer, just like Joel gave his all to save her life. And I feel like part of the reason she does what she does is because this is all I have left to honor Joel's memory, which is a terrible way to honor someone's memory, but she's lived in a terrible reality her whole life. It's not like Joel or someone else where they're like, well, I've got both sides of pre-apocalyptic life and post-apocalyptic life in the same brain. She doesn't. She only has the post-apocalyptic viewpoint. So it's awful. It's terrible. And so it makes sense, and it's really hard to swallow that pill. From there, like you said, Tommy comes, takes her back. They show the map is left, and there's a reason they show that map. I don't know if you guys caught that from the beginning, but when they leave the aquarium, they show the map fall to the ground. And I'm like, that's not good. Somebody is going to find that map. And then the very next scene, you're in the theater, and, Ellie's woken up. She goes down. You're kind of conversing with Jesse, talking about the trip back to Jackson, and they make you all relaxed and like, oh, okay, we're going back to Jackson. Great. And then all of a sudden you hear some screaming. You hear a scuffling in the front. You run to the front with Jesse. Jesse gets shot in the face.
Oh my gosh.
No warning.
So
shot in the face.
Whoa.
And you're like, oh my gosh. And then you don't have time because all of a sudden he's gone. Tommy's at gunpoint, and there in front of you is Abby, who has hunted you down. And you're like, I've been looking for you for 3 days, and you just find me like it's no big deal. And it's just like, wow. And then she says the just gut-wrenching phrase, "We let you live." and you ruined it all. Or you threw
Is
it
that
all
what she
away.
says?
No, something like that.
No. She says, we let you live and you wasted
You wasted it. Yes, thank you.
You wasted it.
You wasted it. And
And
it was like,
it was just like, yes, exactly.
yeah,
You could have been
we
living with
did.
Dina.
we did.
With her unborn child. You could be taking care of her. Jesse could be living right now.
Yeah. And then
And you wasted it.
and then fade to black. And you're like, what is happening? And then all of a sudden, we're in control of Abby yet again. And this fade to black, how did you guys feel about this transition? Did you think it was close to the end? Did you think... I mean, because this is like, you're ready for the confrontation between Abby and Ellie. And then fade to black, and all of a sudden, you're a teenager again. Except not Ellie as a teenager. Abby as a teenager.
Oh, dude. So, like I'm going off of The Last of Us 1 and the length of that game. So when we get to the point where Jesse dies and Abby says you wasted it, I'm like, okay, we're getting to the end here because they're finally meeting up, and then then you start as Abby. I'm like, whoa. How long is this game?
Yeah.
Like there's, you play as Abby. I'm like, okay. Immediately you're with Abby and her dad. I'm like, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm only halfway done with this game. Like seriously, this game is, I don't know how much more I can take because this game is already heavy.
Yeah, definitely. There were actually like 2 or 3 different points of this game where I was like thinking, okay, we're coming to the end.
yeah, same here.
Nope.
Wrapping it up.
And nope, we're not. But yeah, it was definitely threw me off when we completely switched to a younger Abby, I guess just pre-events of Last of Us 1.
Right.
Yeah, the end of Last of Us 1. Yeah, and you don't get that right away. You just, you're Abby, you're walking through a forest, you're looking for your dad. You find, quarters with states on them, which I love that, by the way, finding those throughout. When I found the West Virginia coin, I definitely took a screenshot.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely shot it out there in the Twitter sphere. It was
I
a
did
magical
the same
moment.
thing. I was looking for Ohio. I was like, where's Ohio?
Where you at?
Yeah, I didn't go looking for New Hampshire or Virginia. Oh well.
What? Come on, Mark. Where's your New Hampshire pride?
Apparently not in this game.
All right, fair enough.
Couldn't find it.
Nope. So you don't really know when and where you are until you find Abby's dad. You rescue the zebra, and then I loved how they connected this game with this part of the game with Last of Us 1, and you see the giraffes, you see the zebras, you see the zoo animals that you run into at the end of Last of Us 1, and you immediately know, okay, this is significant. And then it begins to unfold and give the context that Abby's dad was the surgeon that had decided Ellie needed to die, that he needed to get whatever it was happening in her brain and her nervous system, he needed to pull that out so they could manufacture a vaccine, a cure.
Yeah, and they say that he is the only brain surgeon that anybody knows of. And
Right.
he's the only person that can do the surgery. Which is wild.
crazy.
Yeah.
So he was the guy. He was the
Now-
guy that was going to help save the world. Him and Ellie.
I seem to... Maybe I'm remembering this wrong, but I seem to remember in Last of Us 1 that you didn't necessarily have to kill the people in the room.
You
where
had to
Ellie
kill
was.
the main doctor.
You had to kill
Did
the
you?
surgeon.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
The
The
other
surgeon you
two
had to
nurses, you didn't have to.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was wondering, like, Well, am I remembering this wrong, or you
Yeah.
could just take Ellie and run, and completely skip all
you
that?
I listened to one of the Last of Us Spoilercasts. I think it was the official one that I listened to. Neil even says in the interview, he says, even if you only shoot the surgeon in the leg, he dies. Like, you can just shoot him in the feet and he will die, like, eventually. So
Yeah.
there's no way around that you have to kill the surgeon, because he gets out a knife, I think, and he starts to come at you and he stabs you or something.
Yeah,
if
he's got
you
the
don't.
scalpel.
Yeah, he's got the scalpel, so he cuts you up if you don't kill him.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we get to the big news, which makes things very, very, very personal, and in a way begins this understanding and mirroring between Abby and Ellie, because they both have lost their father figures, and it's very intimately connected to each other.
Yeah, and at this point when we find out that, so Joel killed Abby's dad, and that's why Abby went after Joel, and
Right.
Joel alone, because that was her thing. Like, her revenge was for Joel only. You know, she could have killed Tommy, she could have killed Ellie, the whole group could have killed them, but they didn't. Their only mission was to go after Joel, and that's why Abby says, "We let you live, and you wasted it," because they weren't after them. None of them were a part of it. It was Joel, and Joel alone went through that entire hospital and murdered all those Fireflies, and murdered the one person that could save Ellie and save humanity, and that made it very, very personal for Abby. One,
Yeah.
the cure could have happened, and two, it was her dad.
Yeah, and it's really cool how when they give some of the context and conversations with Marlene, with the dad, with Abby, them talking about, and I think very much on purpose, talking about the things they know that the fans of Last of Us 1 had talked about.
Yep.
And like Marlene asked the dad, "Hey, if it was your daughter," and he doesn't give an answer, like he doesn't give a clear answer, but then Abby comes in and she says, "You would do it.
Yeah.
I would want you to do it."
Mm-hmm.
And that it's pretty powerful, and it definitely began for me the swing back, which was the intention of Naughty Dog, to swing you back towards Abby after they had been just like hitting it home. Ellie's getting revenge. You want to get revenge. This woman killed, our father figure killed Joel, and they begin to
Killed humanity.
nudge you back. Yeah, and it's the double whammy, like you said. Killed the hope that they had for humanity and killed Abby's dad.
Yeah.
And so we begin following Abby, day one, Seattle.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we're at the WLF headquarters at the Seattle Seahawks Stadium. Is that?
Yeah.
Is that the stadium that they used?
Yeah, it's not the Seahawks. It's some totally different name, like the Kraken or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's something. But yeah, it's that whole scene. Now it's funny because in this scene, where they're walking through, because there is and there is Mel's with them.
Yeah.
And Mel and Owen, I think Mel and Owen were walking, or maybe Mel and Jesse. I can't remember. But
when are we talking about? Sorry.
when they're walking through the stadium, when they're walking through burritos and things like that.
Yeah, Manny. I think it's
it was
Manny.
Maybe it's
and
Manny. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Manny, not Owen.
they're walking through, and they get to the gunsmith that's back there, and the armory, and Mel's like, "Hey, Pat," and immediately I just like throw up my hands. I'm like, Mel just said hi to Pat. That's me.
Mel just said hi to me. That's hilarious.
Yeah. And what's crazy is she's also with Abby, who's my sister's name.
Yes, that's true. I forgot about that.
This immediately, I'm like, oh, I connect with these guys. They have
a
names
connection.
I know.
Now, easily one of the first of the many heartbreaking things that happen in the stadium. You play catch with Alice,
Oh, yes.
and you
Did
can
you
immediately connect it back to killing Alice as Ellie, knowing that's going to come again in this new day 1, 2, 3.
Yep. Yeah, that's
Okay, so raise your hand if you threw the ball out of the fence.
I did not know you could do that.
You
I
can.
didn't. Did you do it?
Yes.
You mean
You
person.
are so mean.
You are
Now,
heartless.
Listen. Obviously, I took a good amount of time to play fetch with the dog, so it's
Okay.
not like
You gave her time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Okay, fair enough.
I just wanted to test it to
Yeah.
see if I could.
That's cool. What
that's
happened?
funny.
And you throw it, and it goes out of the fence, and you all of a sudden hear Alice go, "Mm," and
Oh,
she goes. Abby says to Alice, she says, "Sorry, girl."
Oh, see, I was in there and I was just tossing the ball because I thought it was one of those cuts, one of those scenes where you toss the ball and then something happens. So I'm tossing the ball for a few minutes. I'm like, oh gosh, and this dog keeps bringing this tennis ball back to me, and if
Ending.
if I leave, then I can no longer throw the ball with the dog. So
Right.
when I left that cage and shut it behind me, I'm like, oh, he just wants to play some catch, and I had to continue the story. Why couldn't there be a cutscene where it made me stop? I had to do it myself.
Nope, you had to choose. So you get it toward the stadium, you walk around, and you realize you're kind of getting sent to a new location by Isaac. You get to meet Isaac, who's been mentioned. I can't remember if Isaac's been mentioned before this, but you had heard about Isaac a little bit. I think they had mentioned it in Jackson when Owen and Abby are talking, maybe.
Yeah,
but
I believe so.
anyways, you finally meet this Isaac guy, and he's kind of a scary dude. He's interrogating someone, definitely pretty ruthless. The leader of WLF, the Washington Liberation Front, and he's sending you out to the FOB, I think they call it. The
FOB.
Forward Operating Base, I believe, if I
Yep.
remember from Metal Gear Solid 5. That's what it's called.
Okay.
Can we stop and admire the fact that Isaac is played by Jeffrey Wright? Do you know who that is?
He's the guy from that HBO series,
Yeah, he's from
Right?
Westworld.
Westworld. Yes, that's right.
I
And
heard that.
also, he is the new Commissioner Gordon in the Robert
Oh,
Pattinson
okay.
Batman
Oh,
movie.
yeah, that's right.
Very
Yep.
nice. Batman shout out.
Of course.
Cool. Yeah. And he definitely has a bad guy feel to him
Oh,
when
yes.
you meet him.
Total
and he's
bad
just
guy.
like eating an apple, just like, hey, you're gonna do it. Keep to the plan. We're taking down these scars and blah 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 and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So they go out. You're traveling along with Manny, Mel, and Alice. Fighting scars, fighting the Seraphites. And then I believe at some point you break off from Manny and Mel, if I remember right, because Abby wants to go after Owen, because you find out that Owen had gotten a fight with someone and that person had died and they were kind of after them. And so you're headed to the aquarium,
Yes.
if I remember
Yeah.
correctly.
Yes, that's right.
Yes. So you eventually split off from Manny and Mel. You're by yourself as Abby. Overall, you automatically realize there's a difference between the two. Like, well, one, you guys probably felt, as I did, you no longer had a knife. You had to craft shivs.
Oh,
As-
yes. Bring
Yeah, that
back
bothered
to-
me.
Yes.
You're like, really? The shivs are back? I loved having the knife as Ellie.
How many
But
doors
also,
can I open
you got
with these
two.
shivs?
Yeah, you got two guns with Abby, and she can just like pummel fools and punch them. And you've got some nice
Well, yeah.
guns and stuff.
Abby was swole.
Yeah,
So
For
she
sure.
she had arms on her for days, and she could wreck someone with those arms.
Well, yeah, she was using the Seattle Seahawks gym or whoever's
Yes,
gym
they were.
that was.
They had a good
That was
gym.
a nice freaking gym.
Oh, I wanted to go into that gym, but there was no door open for me to go in there because I thought it would have been like a
Oh, did you
mini
try to go
game.
in?
I thought
Yeah,
there might
like
have been
a-
a mini game or something because
a way out mini game, like when you're at the prison yard
exactly.
with face off against people doing pull-ups, or maybe like Final Fantasy VII Remake, doing
Yeah.
pull-ups or doing squats.
Exactly. Except
Yeah.
Manny just hitting on the teacher instead.
Well, yeah, man, that man,
Manny's a player.
he is a player and a half. So from there, you keep going to the aquarium, and all of a sudden, you get captured
Yep.
by the Seraphites. And let me tell you, from this point, things get, I think, they ante up the craziness.
The brutalness.
the brutalness of this game. You get captured by the Seraphites, or Abby gets captured by the Seraphites. They hang you, and while they're in the midst of hanging you, Yara, a new character shows up called Yara, this lady that they put on the ground and they hammer her arms.
Oof.
Wow, that was like one of the first cringy moments that I was like,
I thought they were gonna do like a camera trick and just like make
Pull
it
away.
look like you're hitting someone, but they were the camera was right on the
right
arm.
on it. They're like
Ugh.
clipper wings. I'm like, oh no, don't clip her wings. Don't do it.
Ugh.
And they did. Well, they
Yeah.
clipped one of them at least.
Yeah.
But this was actually one of the earliest gameplay, or not gameplay, but like cutscene reveals that they did for the game.
I had remembered that once I saw it.
Came out in like 2017, 2018, something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, that whole scene played out, and I went back to watch the actual reveal. Yeah, it pretty much plays out.
Yeah, exactly how they
Just
had played it out in that reveal. Yep.
But yeah, it was it was brutal, absolutely brutal. And then of course, Abby is through, I guess, Lev, and who we also meet. She's able to.
We meet her by her putting arrows into the heads and bodies of different Seraphites.
And cutting Abby down as she's being hung at this point.
Yeah, saves her life.
Wow.
And definitely an immediate, transition or even a tough spot, because that, I think at some point there or after you hear that Abby was like one of the top Seraphite killers in the WLF, and now she's here. Her life has been saved by Seraphites. And boy, that whole transition from that scene going through the woods with the fire and like getting chased by the infected, and then getting to the construction area, that was all super tense for me.
Very tense.
I was constantly clicking the show me the directional, like the arrow. Where do I go? Where do I go? I don't want to go the wrong way and get attacked.
Of all this combat scenes in this entire game, I died at this section the most.
Oh, really?
Yes, because there was just like those infected was just running at you from all sides.
Yeah, they were
the entire time
from all
from
kinds of
that
directions.
camp all the way to when you get to the trailers. I just died. I probably died maybe 6 times at this spot. Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. I wasn't on easy. I didn't have those accessibility things on at this point. But yeah, that was an intense scene from beginning to end. And that whole scene in that camp was rough. Really rough.
Yep, for sure.
So then from there, you eventually get to the point where you just drop off Yara and Lev in a trailer, not a trailer park, but it's like a construction site in those little
Office
houses
buildings.
or whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
Office
Yeah,
buildings.
you're right. Yeah.
And you're like, well, you're safe. I got to go. I'm going to do whatever. And you part ways. And
yeah, she's going to find medicine, right? For Yara.
Not yet.
Yep.
Oh no, that's right.
No. She's going.
That's right.
She's only got Owen on her mind, so she goes to the aquarium.
That's right.
Yep.
She comes
Okay.
back.
Meets
Then she
up
comes
with
back.
Owen.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So
Things
her and
happen.
Owen, pretty much. Yeah, things happen. But the short version is she finds out from Owen that he's done. That he's finished with the WLF. He's finished with killing people, killing Seraphites, killing whatever. He just wants to live. And so he pretty much has a plan. We're getting on the boat and we're going. You, me, Mel, Alice.
We're out of here.
We're out of here.
Yep.
And you kind of discover that they're not over each other. And throughout, I think maybe in day one you did have a flashback of Owen and Abby on a merry-go-round and talking and jumping off in the water and stuff, and where they used to date. But because Abby was so focused on finding Joel, their relationship kind of got distant. It's implied, I think. But then, of course, when they meet in the aquarium again, as you said, that's where a little bit of stuff happens. Moving on. But once they fall asleep, Abby has a dream. Now, I really liked these reoccurring nightmares I mean, it sounds weird to say I like the nightmares, but I like these reoccurring dreams that Abby has because it reveals something about her. Every dream, she has it like 3 times, I think. She has a dream where she starts in the hallway of the hospital where her dad was killed, where Joel went nutso and got Ellie and all that jazz.
Yeah.
And she walks through the hallway, and for this first dream, she walks into the place where her dad is, and I think that's where she sees Yara and Lev, correct?
I think so.
The night that she's in the aquarium, because this is what triggers her to go back and get Yara and Lev, seeing them in the dream.
Okay. Yep. Yeah,
I
now
think
I remember.
maybe the first time she sees her dad dead, in the first time she dreams, and then the second time she dreams, she sees Yara and Lev, and so that encourages her in the morning from the aquarium to go back and get Lev and Yara, and then that's where she then gets them finally back to the aquarium, and then she goes for the medicine. Yeah. But I really liked this transition with Abby. You know, she's on the other side of having her revenge, realizing that she's still having nightmares, she's still having a form of PTSD, or, you know, just having this stress over her dad's death, and her attachment to Lev and Yara, and kind of adopting them despite them being on different sides of, you know, this battle going on between the WLF. And I really like this aspect of the story.
Yeah,
their developing relationship.
Yeah, the relationship between Abby, Yara, and Lev is they're breaking down barriers at this point. You know,
exactly.
they're breaking down those walls that have separated them. They both, you know, they're both still enemies, but they have a common goal. They want to save Yara's life, and Lev is still kind of like cautious,
standoffish,
around Abby,
yeah,
you know, and vice versa. But they're at this point, they're like, okay, we need to get some medicine, and their relationship starts coming together. You know, like, okay, maybe you're not all that bad, because Abby keeps calling them scars.
Yeah, and she keeps correcting her.
And Lev's like, no, Lev. I don't like that. You know, we don't like that name.
We're Seraphites.
You know? Seraphites. Yeah. You know, like,
yeah.
And you can, and at first Abby's like, okay, you know, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
And then you know, later on, she finally calls her a Seraphite, and she's like, oh, you got it right, you know, and you know, because Abby was trying, because she found out, like, hey, these are people too, you know, they're not just my enemies, especially this Lev person who is going through a transition of his own. They go through, and it's not necessarily a specific cutscene. One thing I love about this game is, as you're going from spot to spot in a mission, there's dialogue going.
Yep.
And they're talking about transitions, and Lev's mom, you know, doesn't agree with this, and it's Lev's mom, right? That I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
That doesn't agree.
Yeah, she's back at the island. You don't. Yeah.
Yeah. So and Abby kind of, you know, I don't know if she thinks of herself as an older sister at this point. And it's you see that it's not just Seraphites versus the wolves. It's Abby and Lev going through like I said, a common goal, and it was cool to see that. Yeah, just because they're enemies doesn't mean that we can't be on the same page. We don't have to agree on everything to have some sort of relationship.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's cool to see that.
So let's go to the hospital. Let's go to the basement of the hospital.
We're looking
go to
for
the basement of the hospital?
I don't want to go to the basement of the hospital.
I don't think anyone wanted to go to the basement of the hospital.
I hated the basement of the hospital.
No, especially when you find out what's in the basement of the hospital.
Yes. Being a big Resident Evil fan, I loved that scene.
Absolutely hated that part.
Yep, I'm with you, Mark. Hated his guts.
I remember when I was down in that basement, I literally texted Patrick and I was like, "What is down in this basement?" What? Because at that point he was ahead of me, and I was like, "What is in this basement? What? Oh, that's what's in this basement."
And see it. Oh, there was nothing like when I got into that.
T-viruses down there.
Yeah, pretty much. When I got down there, and I was constantly listening to see where stuff was. Mm-hmm. And at one point, when you first hear the Rat King pounding on a door, and I saw his like white listened silhouette, he was huge. And I'm like, I'm gonna have to fight that. No, thank you.
You do have to fight it.
No, I know you do, but I was saying no, thank you because I didn't want to.
Well, speaking of when you think things are over, when you think you kill the Rat King,
and
just like
half of it crawls off and just escapes, and you're like, oh, I got it. Like, nope. Half of it's hiding in another room, and you have to go find it.
Oh my gosh, I wasn't getting time to heal and things like that, so I was having to like be super quick, and no sooner would I, heal up and stuff, but the Rat King would be like right on me, and oh my gosh, I had to play through that so many times, and I was playing on easy, and that thing was a heck of a time. I was so glad when that thing was dead.
Oh yeah, you and me both, Mark. You and me both. That was easily the scare, like the scariest, I guess. I wasn't scared like, oh my gosh, it's infected everywhere. But it was just like so stressful and like getting chased by it. They did such a good job at making you feel like you could get taken out at any moment, even on very light, very easy. And I unloaded everything I had on it. Like, I loved the flamethrower in this fight because I just held down the button and the flamethrower, just flames kept coming. Just burn it up. Make French toast out of that baby. Ooh, yeah. That whole bottom part was something else. But yeah, so you get through there. You go to the hospital. You fight the Rat King. You get the supplies you need. You get back. Now, I do want to touch on real quick, right before the hospital, I really enjoyed the skyscraper parts, going through all the high places.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Totally exposing
I fell off
Abby's.
so many times.
Did you really?
Yes. It was annoying.
But totally exposing Abby's fear of heights was just nice. Someone who's like tough
down.
and I gotta be.
I had a buddy
tough
of mine that would like purposely, he was playing through and would purposely like bring her close to the edge. Because when you bring her close to the edge, the camera starts shaking.
Oh yeah, you get like
yeah,
whatever it's called.
Vertigo.
Yeah. Thank you. I couldn't think. I was like Evo. Like, that's not right.
Almost.
Yeah, vertigo. Yeah, real close. So yeah, you get the vertigo going. But yeah, I really enjoyed the skyscraper, and you get to continue to build that relationship between Lev and Abby. From there, you are heading back. You head back to the aquarium. They fix up Yara, and then no sooner do they fix up Yara that Lev takes off. And you're like,
I know.
You got to be kidding me. Come on. What are we doing? Well, one, I believe at this point, is it day 3 already, or is it still day 2?
Not sure.
We're getting close. If it's not day 2 or day 3,
I feel like it
right
was day
there.
3. And I remember when Lev takes off and Yara's like, we got to go get her. We're going to the island. I'm like, no, I've got to go to the theater and fight Ellie somehow, some way. I don't have time to go to this island. I'm like, what? How are they squeezing all of this in one day? And not only do you travel to the island, but before you travel to the island, we run into our old friend Manny. And what's Manny up to? He's getting shot at by a sniper. And at this point, I'm going to be honest. I thought it was a Seraphite sniper. I did not put 2 and 2 together. And then I died like multiple times. And I'm like, there are no Seraphites that can shoot a gun this well. And then I don't remember at what point I realized it, but I'm like, oh,
it's Tommy.
Tommy.
Yeah.
You've got to be kidding me.
And he shoots Manny in the face.
And then when you're about to reach Tommy and go through a door and Manny gets shot in the face, I was like, oh no, Manny. Bye. Yeah. Facing off against Tommy, I was like of two minds. There was part of me that's like, well, you're Tommy. You're Joel's brother. You're my buddy. And then the other half of me was like, I do not like Tommy right now. He is shooting at me way too much. It was crazy. After that, we go to Scar Island, and we get to witness both the showdown between the Scars and the WOF. I almost said the WOFers. The WLFers and the Scars.
Yeah.
Yep. What did you guys think of the island and everything that went down there?
That was with all the fire. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the
It
fire,
was-
the fighting, screaming everywhere.
There
And
was
you're just
a mini boss that you had to fight too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that dude at the end made me so mad. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I put a scythe in you. How are you still going?
his jaw was like barely hanging on to his face, and he's still like, oh, he was like trying to fight you. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
I thought
like
that-
fighting
that
against
part was bad.
Nemesis or Mr. X or something
Yeah.
like that.
it
Yeah.
was. But I thought it was weird. Not weird. I thought it was interesting that the entire time. Now, I didn't play. I don't know how you guys played it. I still tried to take out almost everyone around me because I didn't want to get followed or get like someone to get me from behind. But the main focus of that island is not the fight between WLF and the Seraphites. It's kind of like the backdrop, the scenery. It's really about getting Lev. You know, she's made it back to, you know, her home, and her mother couldn't forgive her for the things she had done and the choices she had made. And so she tried to hurt Lev, and Lev ends up killing her mother. But just that whole exchange between Yara and Abby, it was just, again, more relationship building. And I appreciated that the focus of the island was both that and then the fact that just like this world is messed up. Like the way they're massacring each other was just awful. We get confronted by Isaac, and I think one of the most powerful scenes comes up in this showdown. Not showdown. I thought it was going to be a boss fight with Isaac. Did you guys think there was going to be any kind of fighting? I did. Like, I thought we were going to fight Isaac.
Yeah, I thought something was going to happen, and it was just also anticlimactic that, like, you know, you get caught by Isaac and these guys, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
kapow.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we lose Yara, but she takes out Isaac and a couple of them in the process.
Yeah. Yeah, which is another thing where you see that development where Yara's like, you know what? Not only am I gonna save Lev, but I'm gonna save Abby in the process.
Yeah. And this part is one of my favorite parts of the game. It's when Lev looks at Abby and says, you shot your people. And Abby responds, you're my people now.
Yes.
And I just was like, oh,
Yes.
yes. I loved that part.
She's just given up all of her alliances that she's had, and she's kind of like Owen, like, okay, I'm done. Owen's done. Lev's done. Now we're gonna start our own venture together.
Yeah. Yep. I really like that. So you leave the island, unfortunately, without Yara, just Abby and Lev. You get back to the aquarium, and then, of course, we had already played Seattle Day 1, 2, 3 with Ellie. We knew what was coming, and we get into the aquarium. Alice is dead. Owen is dead.
Mel is dead.
Mel is dead.
Yes.
And you're like, ugh, I have to see it all over again. And it hurts a lot more than it did the first time around. I mean, it was still brutal and tough the first time when it was with Ellie, but now that you've had conversations with these people, you've been in Abby's shoes, and it's like, woof, it feels a lot different. And so from there, you know what's next. We get to the theater as Abby. We have to crawl in the window on the side. And we get to this part of the game where you finally get to see the showdown between Ellie and Abby. Did you
Ending
guys
part
think...
2.
Huh?
Ending part 2.
Yeah, ending part 2. Did you guys foresee that you would have to go up against Ellie as Abby, or did you think that maybe they would switch you back to Ellie again?
At first, I thought I was going to be Ellie. I really did.
Yeah.
And when that didn't happen,
You
I'm
were
like,
wrong.
Wow, I was wrong. and what's cool about that as your Abby, you know Ellie's tricks. You know how Ellie fights.
Yeah.
So I already had that in the back of my mind. And she's laying down like the pipe bombs. And I don't know if you came across those, but if you didn't attack her fast enough, she was back there doing something, and I went over to go to attack her from behind, and I ran into one of her pipe bombs and killed me.
Really?
Yeah.
I never got a pipe bomb. I had it on very light,
like,
and
well,
I threw
can't-
bricks
Yeah.
all day, every day.
I can't lollygag anymore. I got to make sure I just go
Yeah.
go after her.
Man, that fight was so tense for me, and I died so many times. I did not want to hurt Ellie. That was like,
yeah.
I was like, no, I don't want to fight Ellie. But at the same time, I didn't want Abby to die. At this point, I was like Team Ellie
we
and Team
reconcile?
Abby. I was for both of them, and I was like, can't you guys just both grab a chair, have a conversation? Hey, you know what? We killed each other's, or in a way, we killed each other's dads. We both have had a hard life. Let's talk it out and just move on. Can we stop?
Yeah.
And I was this was probably the hardest fight for me, for sure, the hardest fight mentally.
Yeah.
It was tough. Mark, what was it like for you, buddy?
Yeah, of course, going back to the leaks, the spoilers, one of the leaks was that there would be a final showdown between Abby and Ellie. At first, from what I read, they were saying that Ellie died, which, of course, we found out that was not true. So the leaks weren't 100%, but they were very close. But just the fact that there was some sort of a showdown going on between the two, I thought, okay, this is the end here. Ellie was cutthroat even on easy.
Ooh. Yeah, she was. You could not go head on against her.
Yeah, but what's really crazy is what happens when you reach, quote unquote, the end of the fight.
Right.
And basically, Abby's bashing Ellie. I can't remember if she's bashing Ellie's head in first.
She is.
Okay, and
then
then
Dina comes in.
Dina jumps in
And doesn't last long whatsoever.
No. Thankfully, Lev steps in and stops everything.
Oof. That was a scary moment. I thought she was going to kill Dina.
Yeah. And watch another girl with an unborn child die. Thank God that didn't happen.
But it got real dark because Ellie says she's pregnant, and Abby's like, good. And it's like, oh no.
Lev's like, no.
And then thankfully
Stop.
Lev's like, Abby, stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a really powerful moment, and I was glad
And
that
Abby
Lev stepped in.
listened to Lev too.
Yeah. And then fade to black. Again.
And here comes my favorite part of almost probably the entire game.
Yeah.
One that's maybe not my favorite, but it was one of my favorites.
Hanging out with JJ.
I mean, you're a little bit. You can tell that you're a little bit older. I think it was a year later or something like that.
It has to be around a year later because
Yeah, and you pick up JJ, and for me, as a parent perspective, at that age, the toddler age is one of the cutest ages of all ages, and I picked up JJ, and I just walked around with him. And some of the things that you can do with JJ, not sure if you guys did it, but you can walk into the bathroom in front of the mirrors.
Yep.
And
Make faces.
And have just a good time with JJ, which was really cool. And it was just like she called him Potato. That was like another nickname that Ellie had for JJ.
Did you guys do know what the J and J stand for, right?
Yeah, Jesse Joel.
Yeah,
Jesse Joel. Which
I thought that was really cool.
Too. Yeah. But just walking around, playing music. Dina's just in the kitchen. Ellie tries to dance with her, and Dina's like, "Hey, I'm trying to do this. Why don't you go outside or whatever?" And Ellie goes outside and just sits on the tractor with JJ, and it was just one of those giraffe moments, where through all this crazy, heavy, brutalness, you get a moment of serenity.
Yeah.
Where, it's over. I'm living the good life. I've got a partner. we've got a kid, we've got a house, we've got a place away from it all. It was just like, and it was just good. It was really good. And it was something that the player needed, something that I needed after everything that has happened. From the theater to the aquarium to the island. It was just like back to back to back. You're like, oh my gosh, this is intense. And then you get a moment to breathe. And that's a moment you needed to breathe because it was just too much. And that's why I like this moment, because it was the highest of the high in the entire game. I loved it.
And then the PTSD kicks in.
Yep. And then Tommy comes to visit.
Tommy shows
PTSD.
up. And ruins it.
Yeah, ruins everything. Yeah, between the PTSD that hits Ellie and Tommy, like, I really had a hard time at first with the way Tommy acted with Ellie in this. But, he comes in and he's like pretty much demanding, you owe me revenge. I'm like, man, what is, you messed up.
I don't think so.
But he got this from Ellie at the beginning, and then you find out as you talk to him that he's lost everything. Like, he lost Maria. He can't really move very well from, I thought Tommy was dead in the theater when Abby and Ellie have their showdown, because she shoots at Tommy, but I guess she just grazed his face or whatever with the gunshot.
He lost his eye.
Yeah, he lost an eye. But because of that conversation with Tommy and her PTSD, she makes I would call it mortifying decision, terrible decision, a decision that I was like, why? No, don't do this, Ellie. She makes a decision to go back after Abby.
And she does it like in the middle of the night. Like, she was going to sneak out. And Dina's like, don't do this. Come back to bed. And at this point, I'm yelling at my TV like, don't go. You've got it made right now.
Yeah.
And she doesn't. And she continues off on her revenge killing spree.
And I think, I was just going to say, I think this is the Last of Us 1's Joel deciding to kill everyone in the hospital moment. Like, this is where Ellie crossed the line and she made the worst decision to go back after Abby and to leave. And
up to this point, I am still Team Ellie, and I'm on the fence with that team with Abby, because I understand what Abby has done. She's like, okay, I just an eye for an eye, basically. That's what Abby's doing. Nothing more, nothing less. That's what her goal was. But Ellie just wants everyone to die, and that's what she's done. She's gone through all of this to kill everybody in an effort to satisfy her revenge. And now she makes the decision to leave Dina and JJ. So again, as a parent, I would never do that. Even if I had the emotions for revenge, I could never do that to my. I would consider Ellie as co-mom, as the mom of JJ.
Right.
They're partners. It's her mom. Like it's like if my mom would do that to me, as I wouldn't, or me doing that to my kids, I wouldn't be able to do that. And at this point where my momentum shifts, this is why I was Team Abby. Like, Ellie, you can't do that as a parent. You cannot do that. That's how broken families are made. You know what I mean? So I did not at that point. I'm like, Ellie, you're an idiot. I hope Abby wins this entire thing because of that.
Yeah, I have a confession that when this happened, my son came downstairs from waking up in the morning, and so I knew that I had to stop playing. And I was so stressed out and bummed that Ellie was going back after Abby that I got on Wikipedia and I read the rest of the story. I had to know if they both survived or if one died and one didn't. And I have to say that there was a part of me that if at this point I was team Ellie and I was team Allie or team Ebby. Like I just,
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? You're both broken people. But I don't know. Like I still wanted to support both of them, but I was like, if they kill one of them, I don't know. I'm done. This is ridiculous. They need to just move on. And so I had a hard time with this part of the game, for sure.
Agreed. Right there with you.
So we then zoom over to Abby. Abby and Lev are looking for the fireflies, and they've been having some success, some failures. But eventually it gets to the point where they get into a basement and they're talking to some dudes on the radio, some guy on the radio that has pretty intimate information about the fireflies, seems to be legit. And they're talking about a Catalina Island or something like that.
Yeah.
And they leave the house to go to Catalina Island, and they immediately get jumped by what we've just learned as a new group. Let's introduce a new group in the last couple hours of the game called the Rattlers.
Yeah,
Really?
I think the Rattlers were just that region right there.
Yeah,
Nothing
they were just
more.
like the
Yeah.
regional hunters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, that was a throwaway to get to the ending. I
Yeah.
guess.
Yes. Yeah.
So Lev and Abby get captured, and then you go back to Ellie, who's made it to their boat, and you can read some stuff, and then you make your way up the beach. You make your way through the town, and she gets caught into a trap and gets injured on a spike in a tree, and has a little banter back and forth with the two Rattler guys that captured Abby and Lev. Now, when they're having this conversation and she's going to find out where Lev and Abby are, I thought that it had only been like a week. But you find out in their conversation that it's been months
Yeah.
since Abby and Lev have been captured. And I'm like, months? I didn't realize the time separation between it. And you really get that when you finally run into Abby and Lev. So you make your way through the compound. Of course, you fight some of your toughest NPCs, I think, in this, or your toughest enemies in this section of the game, because the Rattlers have like metal helmets. They have better weapons. But they also have like pet infected that you can let loose. Did you guys
yeah.
enjoy
Yes, I did.
any of the let loose any infected, or enjoy the
Truth be
fight
told,
against the
I
Rattlers?
didn't. I didn't let them go just because I didn't want to have to deal with them later.
Yeah, I killed it.
Yeah, I get that.
I was just like mowing everything down. I was like, I don't
Yep.
care about these guys. I just want to get this over with.
Yeah.
So you make your way through. You help the slaves rise up, because the Rattlers are safe slave traders. So you help them rise up, and of course you get this like typical thing that Ellie gets every time. She's bitten, and I'm like, you know what, guys, just move on. We're over this. Yes, she's bitten. She's fine. Okay. It's like, are they seriously going to kill her? Like, it's not like they're going to stick around long enough to see her turn. Why are they even talking about this? Well, anyways, she helps them pretty much burn down the Rattler compound. Then she gets down to the beach, and this is like the darkest of the dark.
Ending part 3.
Ending part 3. Now,
Yes.
you
Finally
get,
there.
You get into this part where you're searching for Abby, and even when she's helping her down, I did not recognize Abby.
I did not either.
Yeah.
She was so emaciated.
So emaciated, so scrawny, cut hair. I was like, why is she cutting this random woman? I mean, yeah, save people, that's cool, but where's Abby? Like, that's why you came here. And so she cuts her down. She looks terrible. And then Abby's like, let me cut down Lev. And I'm like, oh, this is Abby. I had no idea. And you're following Abby, and it's like, what are we doing? Like, you saved
She's
her
like,
life.
there's boats over here.
Yeah, there's boats over here. So we're getting these boats. And then you have this forced boss fight where pretty much Abby doesn't want to fight. Ellie says, you're going to fight me, and she holds a knife to Lev's throat. And then you have this terrible fight where you play as Ellie this time. Another showdown between Abby and Ellie, except you have a
both
knife.
Completely exhausted.
Yeah. Yeah, Ellie's completely exhausted. I mean, she's gotten stabbed in the side. She's tired from fighting all the Rattlers. And then Abby has no weapons. She's scrawny. She's not the same woman she was months ago. And you have this fight. And
She doesn't have those pipes on her.
She don't have the guns. No gun show today.
24-inch pythons.
The gun show's over.
Yep. And so they fight each other, and Ellie wins, quote unquote wins, but then has a flashback of Joel, and stops and lets him go.
Well, yeah, it's so throughout the entire game, the only memory that keeps showing up is Joel dying.
Right. It's
And
flashbacks
this was the first,
of his like face after he had gotten it.
Right. And this was the first one where was not that.
Yeah.
And because I think that was the point where she's completed her quest, mission, whatever, and now she's finally gotten over it, or finally gotten past that, or able to live with it, those kinds of things. But like, it's the whole game is Ellie going after Abby, ruthless, relentless, and we get to the end of the game, and Ellie doesn't kill Abby. She goes through all of this. Countless people have died because of this. Families wrecked, ruined, lives ruined, friends ruined, whatever, and doesn't go through with it. One thing for me, I thought that was awful. Like I as a gameplay, like I wanted, if I was going to be Team Ellie, I wanted her to kill Abby, but it was basically all for naught. Like, Ellie gets there the whole game, she wants to take on Abby, does it, defeats her basically, just doesn't kill her. So all of it was for nothing. She lost everything. Dina's like, if you go, I'm not going to be here for you. You're not coming back. And so she does all that, and what does she do? She just lets Abby live and ruins her entire life. Like going back to the Pearl Jam song. At the beginning of the game when Joel sings to her, those the first two lines. If I ever were to lose you, I'd surely lose myself. And she did. She lost herself. And she lost everything because of it.
Yeah.
Everything.
Now, don't you think that since she let Abby live, that she kept hold of something, part of her humanity, a part of the good that I think still resides in her?
Yes, but I just wish she would have realized it sooner.
Yeah. I think that cycle of, and this is kind of what I think Neil Druckmann has talked about a little bit. This cycle of revenge. It's just like tit for tat, eye for an eye type thing. We've always got to get revenge, and finally, unfortunately, at the very end, the cycle is completely broken because Abby's already broken it.
Yeah,
she's done. She's
already been trying to break it.
Yeah, but Ellie, to the last moment, she finally fully breaks the cycle.
Yeah,
but it kind of makes me think.
At what cost?
Right, that's what I was going to say.
Going back to the Thanos,
yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Everything cost everything.
And obviously you find that out at the very end of the game when she goes back to the house and the house is completely cleared out. No one's there. Yep. The only thing that's left is her stuff in that one room.
Yep. And then you play guitar one last time, and it is sad because
you're
Abby
missing
bit
a
off
finger.
a couple fingers.
Yeah. So she, I don't know what song she was trying to play.
She was playing If I Ever. She was playing the Pearl Jam song, trying to.
Yeah. And again, now the song that Joel taught her first with that guitar, she can't play anymore.
Right.
Just like, you did it to yourself, Ellie. You did it to yourself. You could have had fingers. You could have had a family. You could have had a nice life. I mean, like, if this game ended at the farm, I would have been satisfied.
Yeah.
I would have been like, oh, okay, this is a nice bow that is just done. to end the game. You know, they could sit on that tractor. If they sat on that tractor and looked off into the sunset, which was beautiful, by the way. I took one screenshot in the entire game, and that was the only one I did. And if that was the end of the game, I would have been happy. I would have been fine with it. But there was that looming, PTSD, that moment where she's in that barn and she just loses it again. I just feel like Ellie did this to herself. And it's her own fault.
Yeah. And
I'm sorry. I feel like I don't have no sympathy for her.
Yeah.
Because of the choices that she made. Abby, like you said, Abby was one and done. She's like, all right, I'm done. Everyone can continue killing each other, but I don't want to be a part of this. But Ellie just continued on that one path, and she ruined everyone's lives, including her own.
Yep. And so I think the combination of the way that Joel died, at what point he died, and the fact that Ellie never really gets revenge on Abby, those were the two huge gripes that people had with the game. And I think for some people, they just completely discounted it, the whole game, because of those facts. And so that's why I think you see that 3.4 user score. Also because they review bombed the page, but
of course.
That's been the huge things, was that like Joel dies the way he does, and then Ellie goes on this huge spree and doesn't end up even killing Abby at the end. So those were the things that she had.
Yeah, you have people that were so, to go on with that, Mark, you have so many people that they connected more with what Joel did in the first game, the awful things he did. I mean, he killed a whole bunch of people. He massacred a hospital. But for the most part, people got to the end of that and were like, but he saved Ellie. He saved his quote-unquote daughter. And so there's that loyalty, that emotion that I think a lot of people can't separate. And they got that information that Joel died without context. And so there was no transition. And so I kind of understand why people are mad. They refuse to like it, because sometimes it's hard to separate that loyalty, to separate from that emotion that you have. Yeah. And so, and that's where I think it suffers from that Last Jedi type of argument, where and I had this issue too. Like it didn't play out the way I thought it should have played out. I would hope that if Joel were to die, that you would get this glorious hero's death, and it would be at the end of the game, and they would tie up all the loose ends. But no, this is not that game. Nope.
The Naughty Dog decided to make everything complicated, to make you think, to make you conflicted.
Yeah.
And I say all these things, but Naughty Dog told a story that made me feel those things.
Yeah.
And I commend them for that. It didn't go the way I wanted it to go, but that's okay. They told the story that they wanted to tell, and I had a fantastic time with it. As much as I didn't agree with some things, and some of the choices that Ellie made, I still love this game.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I still love it.
When you look at something I was thinking about earlier today or yesterday, when I was thinking about Mark bringing up why so many people hate, not so many people, why there are a large amount of vocal people that don't like or hate this game or are mad about Joel dying. When you look at, when we play video games, we do it mainly for fun, and we do it mainly to feel empowered, or to, most of the time we want to agree with the motives and the end goal for the things we do. Save the world, save the girl, save the this, save the, do this, that. But this is not one of those games. No. And I think for some people, when you have that, we're in God mode when we play video games, when we read books, when we watch movies, we see everything all at once. And it's easy to forget that people like Ellie, people like Abby, people like Lev, like they don't see the whole picture. And so they have to portray these characters as broken and as limited, as imperfect, because they are. They don't see everything like we see it. So we can't just be like, you're stupid, you made the worst. Yeah, sure, they made bad decisions, but at the same time, they made human decisions that we all make in this life, because we don't have that godlike view, and we make some of those dumb decisions, maybe not obviously in the same way, that murdering people and that kind of stuff. But
wait, what?
Wait, you don't murder people?
You don't murder people?
Nope. And, you know, at the same time, this is art. It brings, and it's art based on the human condition, extreme emotion. So it's exposing our extreme emotions. It's exposing our human condition, where we are. And yeah. The just because there wasn't a nice bow at the end doesn't mean that this is not a great story. You know, you think of Shakespeare, all the tragedies that he had written. Oh, this is modern Shakespeare.
Do you think that just because that it wasn't the way you wanted it to go, that it's a bad play, it's a bad story? No, those are unbelievably great stories, almost throughout Shakespeare. And was there nice bows? No, there wasn't. And there was not a nice bow in this one either. But just because it didn't have a nice bow at the end doesn't mean that it's not a great game, which it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, this game was all about, I think this game is not about, the bow. It's about getting in people's shoes. It's all about perspective. You guys have maybe read the articles, seen the headlines that people think this game is about, violence is bad, or even, and we've kind of mentioned it, the cycle of revenge is bad, which of course it is. And there are definitely some degrees of that message being thrown out there, but it's deeper than that. It's deeper. It's about perspective. It's about getting in someone else's shoes. It's about how we as humans are so quick to judge, so quick to look at someone from our perspective alone and not considering the perspective of the other. And this game forces us to stand and rock and run and fight in the shoes of other people, and to even then see them do that amidst each other, like having Abby interact with Lev and befriend her and everything that happened there. I mean, it was just all about perspective, and I just loved the story for that. I loved how it caused us to get in other people's shoes and just get a perspective, and how they take you through that. Now honestly, going back, I don't want to play this game again. I don't even want to get the platinum. But if they made a chronological version of the story, like where you get to play everything the exact order that it happened, I would be game for that. I had a hard time with the pacing of, the first half of the game being Ellie, the second half being Abby. For me, I had a hard time. I felt like by the end of Abby's story, I was so disconnected from Ellie. And maybe that's what they wanted you to do. They wanted you to be team.
That's exactly what they wanted. And
I didn't like that feeling. I didn't want to abandon Ellie, because I still feel like she can be a hero. Like there's still, even at the end of this game, you talk about how, she's gone. She's lost herself. But there's still a part of her that wants to sacrifice herself for the cure. If that opportunity would come, I think she would still do it. So I still feel like there's a hero within Ellie's mind and heart. And maybe for me, that's like my dream part 3 of The Last of Us that they probably won't make. But if they do, I hope it's about the Fireflies. I really miss the Fireflies. I'm really glad that we didn't mention this, but after credits, the new title screen is the boat on the beach. And Lev cool. and Abby have made it to Catalina Island, and it's suggested that they've made it to the Fireflies, which is a nice little subtle happy ending.
Yeah.
Did you guys have anything else that you wanted to share about the game?
So you were talking about Last of Us 3. I think
predictions.
I think they will make one.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen anytime soon.
No.
10 years from now, that's probably more likely.
Think 10.
I think I think Naughty Dog is not going to do one right away. I think it's going to be another Ellie story.
I'm fine with another 7. I think that they already did 7 years between part 1 and part 2. Just do 7 years again for part 2 to 3.
Yeah, I don't think it's 7 years. I mean, like 7 years felt like a long time, but after the divisive nature of this game,
yeah,
I think
that's true.
They're going to let it sit for a little bit before they do a third one. But I would love to see Last of Us 3, where it completes Ellie's journey.
Yeah.
Where they find a brain surgeon
Just not
that
done.
can do the surgery that can save the world. I think that would be really cool if they did that. Now, will they do it in a bite-sized 2-hour game? I don't know, but I would like to see that story finish, because we didn't get any finality in anything in this game. It doesn't end. It just gives you she's walking away from the farm, and you don't know where she's going.
Nope.
So, don't know. But I do hope they make one, but I do hope also that they make something else, like Uncharted 5 or something. Or I love the Uncharted games, but
Yeah, I hear you.
I don't think they should do one now. It should be maybe Xbox One, 2, or PS6. Something like that.
I think they're done at this point. I think they're done. I don't think they make a third one. I mean, they left it open a little bit. I don't think they're gonna go back to that. I mean, that's just, I could be completely wrong, and you can pull this up however many years from now, and I'll be wrong. But
yeah, you're not wrong. That's just your opinion.
Yeah, just how you feel.
but yeah, I don't think they want to go back to this at this point. And I think honestly, to have that sort of like, her opportunity to be the cure, while that would be nice, I think that would kind of negate what happened in this game. And just the bleakness of how things ended up. I don't know if that would be the direction they would go. I mean, I could be wrong, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I just want Ellie to have the choice. That's what drove me crazy about part 1, and then in part 2, I don't feel like it wasn't about choice. It was more like there wasn't good communication. We're having a breakdown in communication. Why couldn't Ellie and Abby just say, "Hey, we both, we're both somewhat responsible for the death of each other's dads. So why don't we just, shake hands, because we're pretty much even, like in terms of how things all shake down." I don't know. If just people would talk a little better and get in each other's shoes, it would be such
That's the
Just have a
moral of the story.
conversation. That's all you need.
Just talk.
Just drink a little, get some of that extra coffee that Joel had, and drink that, and have a talk.
Yeah.
But
Maybe play some guitar.
Yeah, play a little guitar. Now, speaking of your prediction, Mark, I did want to go over we don't have a bunch of predictions, but Pat and I did have some predictions that I just want to give the official results to. We both said that Joel would die. We both get a point for that. Let's see. I said that she would remain a hero or sacrifice herself. No, I don't think
that's
so.
a point.
I don't think that's a point. I'm going to give myself 0.1 of a point because she spared Abby's life in the end. All right. 0.1.
Okay. Judges? Okay, they're going to give it to you.
All right, great. 0.1. Joel and Ellie will fight about the decision. We both said that would be a thing that would come up. They would fight, and they did. I did predict that it would happen at the beginning, and then, Pat, you predicted that it would be in flashbacks. So
I did.
Bonus points to you.
Bonus 0.1 for me.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, extra 0.1. And then my bonus prediction was joke books and aliens.
Nope.
Womp womp.
No joke books, just aliens. So
yeah, this is more serious than that. They stayed away from that.
But she did tell lots of jokes. She just didn't have a joke book, so those didn't show up. And the
But
aliens are
they
still
had
hiding.
awesome collector trading cards, though.
They did. Those trading cards were pretty funny, pretty interesting. Yeah. So, prediction results. I'm going to give it to Pat. I think you won the prediction, so congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
I gave Pat a thumb up. For those that can't see our live feed video, that's not actually live.
And I bowed to him like a samurai.
Yep. Ah, you bow like a man of Tsushima. All right. Well, I think that's it for this Last of Us 2 spoiler cast. I'm not even going to try to come up with a weird, stupid, whatever I come up with most of the time.
You don't need to.
Nope. If you'd like to connect with us, the Good Morning Guys, beyond listening, remember to check us out on Twitter at the GMG Podcast or Discord. There's a link in our Twitter profile or in the show notes. If you are more old school and not much for social media, then you can email us at thegoodmorningguys, all spelled out, at gmail.com. Then if you want to practice your radio voice, you can also call us at 929-GMG-GUYS. Leave a message, ask a question, and let your voice be heard. And with that, Mark and Pat, along with you, our beloved friends, family, and joiners, go get your good morning this week, and may God bless and guide your lives as you live, as you work, and as you game.
1, 2, 3, 4.